Have you ever had one of those mornings where you wake up after a full night's sleep, but still feel exhausted? You did everything right, went to bed early, got your 8 hours, maybe even avoided caffeine before bed, yet you wake up groggy, unfocused, and strangely empty. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. Millions of people in modern life experience the same thing. And here's the twist. The problem isn't always your sleep. Sometimes, what's really happening is that your body rests, but your soul doesn't. You see, there's more than one kind of rest. Physical sleep may recharge your body, but there are other forms of exhaustion that 8 hours in bed can't fix. Emotional fatigue, mental clutter, social burnout, even spiritual depletion. And when those needs go unmet, no amount of sleep will ever feel like enough. Let's unpack this together. Because understanding why you still feel tired, even when you're doing everything right, might just change the way you approach rest, energy, and life itself. First, let's talk about the most common misunderstanding. We think rest equals sleep. But rest is not a one-size-fits-all thing. It's multidimensional. Imagine your energy like a battery with different cells: physical, mental, emotional, creative, and spiritual. You might charge one while the others run empty. That's why you can sleep 8 hours but still wake up drained, because maybe your mind never got to rest. Maybe your heart was carrying too much weight. Or maybe your environment never gave you peace. Physical rest is the most obvious type and the one we tend to overfocus on. It's about letting the body recover from strain, movement, and daily demands. But if you spend your rest scrolling through your phone or lying awake with racing thoughts, your body might be still, but your nervous system is still running a marathon. Next is mental rest. Think of how often your brain is on. You're processing emails, planning tomorrow, remembering what you forgot to do, worrying about things you can't control. Even when you're trying to relax, your mind is juggling 10 invisible tasks. True mental rest means unplugging, not just from devices, but from overthinking. It's giving yourself permission to not solve everything right now. Then comes emotional rest. This one's harder to notice because it's not about what you do, but what you carry. Emotional exhaustion happens when you're constantly holding space for others, listening, supporting, helping, but rarely expressing how you feel. You become the strong one, the reliable one, but inside, you're silently drowning. Emotional rest means creating safe spaces to be honest, vulnerable, even messy, without judgment. Sometimes, emotional rest isn't found in solitude, but in connection with someone who sees you without expectation. Now, there's social rest. Sounds ironic, right? But we've all had those days when being around people, even people we love, feels draining. Social rest doesn't mean isolation. It means choosing relationships that restore you rather than deplete you. It's learning to set boundaries, to say no without guilt, to spend time with people who energize you instead of those who constantly demand from you. Next, creative rest. Have you noticed how even people with fun jobs or artistic hobbies sometimes lose inspiration? It's because creativity requires input, inspiration, curiosity, wonder, not just output. When you're constantly producing but never pausing to refill your imagination, burnout is inevitable. Creative rest happens when you allow beauty to feed you, walking in nature, listening to music, reading something that moves you, or simply daydreaming without purpose. And then, there's spiritual rest, the kind that comes from feeling connected to something greater than yourself. This doesn't have to be religious. It could mean reconnecting with your values, your purpose, your sense of meaning. We live in a culture obsessed with doing, achieving, producing, improving, and we often forget being. Spiritual rest reminds you that you're more than what you accomplish. You're enough simply by existing. When you neglect these deeper forms of rest, your body can sleep, but your inner world stays awake, buzzing, worrying, performing, and that's why you wake up tired, even after 8 hours in bed. So what can you do? Here are a few simple shifts to restore real rest in your life. First, stop treating rest as a reward you have to earn. You don't need to deserve a break. Rest is not laziness, it's maintenance. You don't wait for your phone to die before charging it, right? Do the same for yourself. Second, schedule mental quiet, like you'd schedule a meeting. Take 5 minutes to breathe, to stretch, to simply sit without input. You'll be amazed at how clarity returns when you stop feeding your mind constant noise. Third, be honest about your emotional load. Ask yourself, when was the last time I talked about how I really feel? Not the polished version, the real one. Vulnerability isn't weakness, it's release. Fourth, practice social boundaries. It's okay to skip the call, the party, the favor. Not out of neglect, but out of respect for your own energy. The people who truly value you will understand. Fifth, feed your creativity by consuming beauty instead of distractions. Go for a walk, stare at the clouds, visit a museum, or simply sit in silence. Inspiration is born from stillness. And finally, reconnect with meaning. Ask yourself, what makes me feel alive? What truly matters to me? Sometimes fatigue isn't physical, it's existential. You're not tired because you've done too much. You're tired because you've done too little of what makes you come alive. If you start giving each part of yourself the kind of rest it really needs, you'll notice something subtle but powerful. Energy starts to return, not as a sudden burst, but as a calm steadiness. You'll wake up not just rested, but peaceful. Because real rest isn't about sleeping more, it's about living with less internal noise. It's when your body, mind, and spirit are finally on the same page, quiet, present, and at ease. So tonight, when you go to bed, don't just ask, did I sleep enough? Ask, did I rest where I needed it most? At 365 Lifetimes, we believe life's biggest changes often begin with the smallest realizations. If this message resonates with you, maybe it's time to rethink what rest really means, not as an escape, but as a way to return home to yourself. Because you deserve to wake up not just awake, but alive.